The great hall of the Galactic Council was filled with creatures from 1,000 worlds. Some had scales that shined like metal. Others floated in liquid tanks because they could not breathe air. A few were made of pure light, their bodies flickering like candles in wind. They had gathered for the 47th Universal Summit, and every species in the known galaxy had sent their leaders. Every species except one. Ambassador Yuna stood at the center of the hall. She was tall and thin, with blue skin and 4 arms. Her species, the Valorians, had created the Galactic Council 3,000 years ago. They believed in unity. They believed that all intelligent life should work together. And for centuries, they had succeeded in bringing peace to the stars. But there was one world that refused to join. One small, blue planet at the edge of a forgotten spiral arm, a world called Earth. They have ignored us again, Yuna said to the assembly. Her voice carried across the massive chamber. For the 47th time, humanity has declined our invitation. Angry sounds filled the hall. Creatures hissed and growled, and made noises that had no translation. The humans were an insult to everything the Council stood for. High Commander Vorn stepped forward. He was a Drakari, a reptilian species known for their military strength. His green scales were scarred from many battles, and his yellow eyes burned with frustration. "Let me take a fleet to Earth," Vorn said. "I will make them understand the importance of cooperation." "No," Yuna replied calmly. "The Council does not use force. We invite. We do not demand. Then they will continue to mock us," Vorn growled. "Every year, we send our finest diplomats. Every year, they send us away. The humans think they are better than us." Yuna raised one of her 4 hands for silence. "I will go myself. Perhaps a personal visit from the Council's senior ambassador will change their minds." The journey to Earth took 3 days. Yuna's ship was the finest in the Valorian fleet, capable of crossing galaxies in moments. But she chose to travel slowly. She wanted time to study the humans, to understand why they were so different from every other species. The data was strange. Humans had only discovered space travel 200 years ago. Their technology was primitive compared to the Council's. They had no weapons that could threaten even a small patrol ship. And yet, they acted as if they were the masters of the universe. When Yuna's ship entered Earth's solar system, she expected to be challenged. Instead, a calm voice welcomed her. "Galactic vessel, you are cleared to approach Earth. Please proceed to Sol landing zone. Commander Do-hyun will meet you." Yuna found this curious. Most primitive species panicked when alien ships arrived. The humans sounded almost bored. Sol was a beautiful city. Tall buildings touched the clouds, and green parks filled the spaces between them. Humans walked the streets without fear, barely glancing at the alien ship that descended from the sky. Children pointed and laughed, as if seeing visitors from another galaxy was an everyday event. Commander Do-hyun was waiting at the landing zone. He was a middle-aged man with kind eyes and gray hair at his temples. He wore a simple uniform without medals or decorations. When Yuna stepped off her ship, he bowed politely. "Ambassador Yuna," he said, "welcome to Earth. I hope your journey was pleasant." "It was," Yuna replied, "though I wish the purpose of my visit was more pleasant as well." Do-hyun smiled softly. "You have come to ask why we refused the summit. Again." Do-hyun, "Yes. The Council does not understand. Every species benefits from membership, trade, technology, protection from threats. Why does Earth continue to refuse?" Do-hyun gestured toward a small garden nearby. "Walk with me, Ambassador." "Let me try to explain." They walked among flowers and trees. Birds sang in the branches above them. Yuna noticed that humans moved around them without staring. They seemed completely uninterested in her alien appearance. "Your people do not fear me," Yuna observed. "Why would they?" Do-hyun asked. "You are a visitor. We welcome visitors, but you do not welcome membership in our council." Do-hyun stopped beside a small pond. Fish swam in circles beneath the clear water. "Ambassador, how old is your council?" 3,000 years, Yuna said proudly. And in those 3,000 years, how many wars have you fought? Yuna hesitated. Several. But we always restored peace. How many species have you lost? How many worlds have been destroyed? Some, Yuna admitted. Progress requires sacrifice. Do-hyun nodded slowly. Humanity has a different view. We have learned that some things are worth waiting for. Some things cannot be rushed. What are you waiting for? Yuna asked. Do-hyun looked up at the sky. For a moment, his eyes seemed to hold a secret that Yuna could not understand. Something old, he said quietly. Something that has been traveling for a very long time. I do not understand. I know, Do-hyun said gently. And I am sorry, but I cannot explain. Not yet. Please tell your council that Earth is grateful for the invitation, but we must decline. Again, Yuna felt frustration rising in her chest. The council will not accept this forever. There are those who believe humanity should be forced to join. For your own protection, Do-hyun's expression did not change. We do not need protection, Ambassador. Earth is quite safe. Also, Earth is quite safe. You have no military fleet. You have no planetary shields. A single warship could destroy your entire civilization. Perhaps, Do-hyun said, but no one will attack us. How can you be so certain? Do-hyun smiled again, but this time there was something deeper in his eyes, something ancient and knowing. Because we have been watching the stars for a very long time, Ambassador. Longer than you know. And we know exactly what is coming. 7D. Khan. Yuna returned to her ship with more questions than answers. As she left Earth's atmosphere, she looked back at the blue planet. It seemed so small, so fragile. How could they be so confident? She reported her failure to the council. High Commander Vorn laughed with contempt. The humans are fools, he declared. They live in a dream. One day, they will wake up and realize they need us. And on that day, we will make them beg for membership. But Yuna was not so sure. There was something in Commander Do-hyun's eyes that haunted her. He had not looked like a fool. He had looked like a man who knew something that the entire galaxy did not. What was Earth waiting for? The answer would come soon. And when it did, the galaxy would never be the same. The Galactic Observatory was the largest structure ever built. It floated in the empty space between galaxies, far from any star or planet. From here, scientists could watch the entire universe. They tracked comets and mapped black holes. They studied the birth of stars and the death of worlds. Nothing in the cosmos escaped their attention. Chief Scientist Morak had worked at the observatory for 60 years. He was a Trilaxian, a species with 3 eyes and skin like rough stone. In all his decades of watching the universe, he had never seen anything truly surprising. The cosmos followed rules. Stars burned, planets spun, galaxies drifted slowly through the void. Until today, the signal came from nowhere. One moment, the screens showed empty space. The next moment, they were filled with light and sound, and data that made no sense. What is this? Morak demanded. His assistants rushed to their stations, their fingers flying over control panels. It is a beacon, Chief Scientist, one of them reported. A transmission signal. Very powerful. From where? The outer void. Sector Omega 7. There is nothing there. No stars. No planets. No stations. Morak leaned forward, all 3 eyes focused on the data. That is impossible. Signals do not come from nothing, but this one did. The beacon pulsed with a rhythm that seemed almost like a heartbeat. It carried information, complex patterns that the computers struggled to decode. And beneath it all, there was something else, something that made Morak's stone skin turn cold. Chief Scientist, another assistant said, her voice shaking. The beacon contains biological data. What kind? DNA signatures. Very old, at least 2,000 years old. Morak felt fear for the first time in decades. Can you identify the species? Could. The assistant worked her controls with trembling hands. The computer processed the data for several long moments. Then the answer appeared on the screen, and the entire room fell silent. Human. The beacon carried human DNA. A signal, 2,000 years old, from the empty void where nothing should exist. And it was marked with the genetic code of the most primitive species in the galaxy. Morak immediately contacted the Galactic Council. Within hours, Ambassador Yuna and High Commander Vorn arrived at the observatory. They stood before the massive viewing screen, watching the beacon pulse in the darkness. "This must be a mistake," Vorn said. "The humans only discovered space travel 200 years ago. They could not have sent anything into the void 2,000 years ago." "The data does not lie," Morak replied. "The DNA is human. The signal is ancient. And it is pointing directly at Earth." Yuna felt a chill run through her forearms. She remembered Commander Do-hyun's words. "We have been watching the stars for a very long time. Longer than you know." "What does the beacon say?" she asked. Morak hesitated. "We have only decoded part of it. The message is simple, but we do not understand its meaning." "Show us." The screen changed. Words appeared, translated into the common language of the Council. They were simple words, but they carried a weight that made the air feel heavy. "We are coming home." Vorn made a sound of confusion. "Coming home? Who is coming home?" "The beacon is a marker," Morak explained. "It was placed in the void to signal something, or someone. Whatever sent this beacon 2,000 years ago is now returning. And based on the signal's direction, they are heading straight for Earth. We must warn the humans," Yuna said quickly. "They may not know what is approaching." "Do you truly believe that?" Vorn asked. His yellow eyes were narrow with suspicion. "The humans have been ignoring us for decades. They refused every summit, every offer of help. And now, we discover that something ancient is returning to their world? This is not a coincidence." Yuna knew he was right. The humans had been hiding something. Commander Do-hyun had practically admitted it. They were waiting for something. "We should go to Earth," she decided. "We should demand answers. And if they refuse to answer, then we will watch. Whatever is coming, it will arrive soon." The beacon's activation means the journey is almost complete. We will see the truth with our own eyes. The Council fleet assembled within days, 50 warships, carrying the finest soldiers and scientists from a dozen worlds. They traveled to Earth's solar system and took position near the planet Mars. From there, they could observe Earth without threatening it. But the humans knew they were there. Of course they did. Commander Do-hyun sent a message to the fleet. His voice was calm and warm, as if he were greeting old friends. "Welcome back, Ambassador Yuna. I see you brought company this time." "We detected the beacon," Yuna replied. "We know something is coming." "Commander Do-hyun, what have you been hiding from us?" There was a long pause. Then Do-hyun's voice returned, and for the first time, Yuna heard something different in his tone. Not fear, not worry. Something that sounded almost like excitement. "The beacon you detected is 2,000 years old, Ambassador. It was placed by our ancestors, long before your council existed, long before most of your species had discovered fire." "Impossible," Vorn interrupted. "Humans were primitive 2,000 years ago. You had no technology that you knew about." Do-hyun corrected gently. "Humanity's history is longer than you imagine. High Commander, we have risen and fallen many times. We have reached for the stars before, and we have lost our way before. But this time, we remembered. This time, we kept the old knowledge safe." "What did your ancestors send into the void?" Yuna asked. "Ships," Do-hyun said simply. "Many, many ships. The greatest fleet ever built. 2,000 years ago, our ancestors sent an armada into the darkness. They carried millions of humans to distant galaxies, to plant seeds among the stars. And now, after all this time, they are finally coming home." The Council fleet sat in stunned silence. Vorn's scales had turned pale. Yuna's 4 hands were shaking. "How many ships?" she whispered. Do-hyun's answer came slowly, each word heavy with meaning. 10,000. 10,000 ships, Ambassador. Each one carrying 100,000 souls. Our children are returning, and they have been very busy during their long journey. The beacon continued to pulse in the void. But now, the council understood what it meant. It was not a warning. It was not a threat. It was a homecoming signal, and Earth had been waiting 2,000 years to receive it. The void was empty. It had always been empty. The space between galaxies held nothing but darkness and silence, a vast ocean of nothing that stretched for millions of light years. No species had ever crossed it. No ship had ever dared to try. The void was death. Everyone knew this, until the day it opened. High Commander Vorn was watching from his flagship when it happened. His 50 warships were still positioned near Mars, still waiting for answers that the humans refused to give. 3 days had passed since they detected the beacon. 3 days of silence and tension and growing fear. Then the void cracked open like an egg. It started as a small point of light, a tiny spark in the endless darkness. But it grew quickly, spreading across the sky like a wound in reality itself. Colors that had no names spilled out of the crack, blues deeper than any ocean, reds hotter than any star, golds that seemed to sing with ancient power. All ships, raise shields, Vorn commanded. Prepare for hostile contact. But nothing hostile came through the rift. Instead, the first ship emerged, slowly, almost gently. It was enormous. Vorn's flagship was considered large, but this vessel made it look like a child's toy. The ship was black as night, with golden lines tracing patterns across its hull. It moved with a grace that seemed impossible for something so massive. Then came another ship, and another, and another. They poured out of the rift like water from a broken dam. Ships of every size and shape, some sleek and fast, others heavy and powerful. They filled the sky with their presence, blocking out the distant stars. Vorn tried to count them, but his computers could not keep up. Hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands. By the ancestors, one of his officers whispered. There are so many. Vorn could not speak. His throat had closed with fear. The Council's entire military force numbered perhaps 2,000 ships. The Armada emerging from the void already had 5 times that number, and more were still coming. At last, the flow of ships slowed. The rift began to close, healing itself like a wound returning to flesh. When it finally vanished, the void was full of ships. They hung in space like a vast metal cloud, silent and still. Then a single transmission came from the lead ship. The voice was human, but it carried an authority that Vorn had never heard from the primitive species. This is Fleet Admiral Taiwan of the Earth Armada. We have completed our journey. We are home. On Earth, the celebration had already begun. Commander Do-hyun stood in the Seoul Command Center, watching the screens with tears in his eyes. Around him, officers were cheering and embracing each other. Some were crying. Some were laughing. All of them had waited their entire lives for this moment. They made it, Do-hyun said softly. After all this time, they actually made it. His assistant, a young woman named Ji-hyo, approached him with a communication device. Sir, Fleet Admiral Taiwan wishes to speak with you directly. Do-hyun took the device with shaking hands. Admiral Taiwan, this is Earth Command. Welcome home. Thank you, Commander. The Admiral's voice was warm but tired. A journey of 2,000 years would exhaust anyone. It is good to hear a voice from the homeworld. Is everything prepared? Yes, Admiral. We have maintained the plan for generations. Earth is ready to receive you. Trider Singh, Arena, and the Galactic Council, we detected their ships near Mars. Do-hyun glanced at another screen, which showed Vorn's fleet. The alien warships looked tiny compared to the human armada. They are here, Admiral. They have been watching us for some time. They are very confused. Taiwan laughed softly. I imagine they are. After 2,000 years of silence, they finally learned the truth. It must be quite a shock. Should we speak with them? Not yet. Let them watch. Let them understand. When they are ready to listen, we will talk. Ambassador Yuna's ship was far from the main council fleet. She had moved closer to Earth, hoping to observe without being noticed. But the human armada saw everything. She knew this because a small shuttle detached from the lead ship and flew directly toward her. She considered running. Her ship was fast. But something told her that running would be pointless. The humans had crossed the void between galaxies. They could certainly catch one Valorian vessel. The shuttle docked with her ship. A door opened, and a single human stepped through. He was old, with white hair and deep lines on his face, but his eyes were sharp and bright, filled with intelligence that made Yuna feel small. "Ambassador Yuna," the old man said, "I am Taiwan. I command the Armada." "Fleet Admiral," Yuna replied, bowing slightly. "I did not expect a personal visit. I wanted to meet you myself. Commander Do-hyun spoke highly of you. He said you were one of the few council members who treated humanity with respect. I tried to understand your people, though I see now that I understood nothing." Taiwan smiled gently. "Do not feel bad, Ambassador. We kept our secrets for a reason. The galaxy was not ready to know the truth. Perhaps it is still not ready. But the time for hiding is over." "How is this possible?" Yuna asked. 2,000 years ago, humanity was primitive. Your histories show nothing of advanced technology or space travel. Our histories were carefully written, Taiwan explained. The truth was hidden in plain sight, in stories and legends that your scientists dismissed as myth. But the real history was preserved by those who stayed behind. Generation after generation, they kept the knowledge safe. They waited for us to return. Where did you go? What did you do for 2,000 years? Taiwan's eyes grew distant, as if he was seeing memories too vast to describe. We traveled to the edges of the universe, Ambassador. We found worlds that no species has ever seen. We built colonies among stars that your maps do not even show. And we grew. We learned. We became something greater than we were when we left. How many humans are in your fleet? The Armada carries 1 billion souls. The colonies we left behind hold many more. Humanity is no longer a single species on a single world, Ambassador. We are spread across the cosmos like seeds in a garden. Yuna felt the weight of this truth pressing down on her. The Galactic Council had always seen humans as weak and primitive. They had mocked Earth for refusing to join their alliance. And all this time, humanity had been building an empire that dwarfed anything the Council could imagine. "What do you want?" she asked quietly. Taiwan considered the question carefully. "We want peace, Ambassador. We did not return to conquer or destroy. We returned because Earth is our home, the mother world. We missed her. The Council will not understand. High Commander Vorn believes humanity is a threat. Vorn is afraid. I do not blame him. Fear is a natural response to things we do not understand. But we will show the Council that they have nothing to fear from us. If they choose peace, we will be the greatest allies they have ever known. If they choose war." Taiwan paused, and for a moment, something hard flickered in his ancient eyes. "Then they will learn why our ancestors sent us into the void in the first place." Yuna swallowed hard. "Why did they send you?" Taiwan smiled, but there was no warmth in it now. "Because 2,000 years ago, Ambassador, there were other empires in this galaxy. Empires that threatened Earth. Empires that are no longer here." He let the words hang in the air. "We are not cruel, Ambassador, but we protect our home, always." The message was clear. Humanity had faced enemies before. Those enemies were gone. The galaxy would have to choose its next move very carefully. The great meeting hall of the Galactic Council had never been so quiet. Thousands of delegates from hundreds of worlds sat in perfect silence, their eyes fixed on the small group of humans standing at the center of the chamber. Ambassador Yuna had arranged this meeting, convincing both sides that communication was better than conflict. Now she watched nervously, hoping she had made the right choice. Commander Do-hyun stood at the front of the human delegation. Beside him was Fleet Admiral Taiwan, his white hair catching the light from the crystal ceiling above, and behind them stood a woman that Yuna had not met before, a scientist named Hana, carrying a small device in her hands. High Commander Vorn spoke first, his voice sharp with barely controlled anger. You have deceived the entire galaxy. For centuries, you pretended to be weak and primitive. You refused our offers of help, you made us believe you were nothing, and all this time, you were hiding an armada that could crush us all. Do-hyun remained calm. We did not deceive you, High Commander. We simply did not tell you everything. There is a difference. The difference is meaningless. You lied through silence. We protected ourselves, Taewon replied. His voice was quiet but carried across the enormous hall without effort. When our ancestors first looked at the stars, they saw danger. They saw empires that conquered and enslaved weaker species. They saw civilizations that destroyed anything they could not control. So they made a choice. They would hide our true strength until the time was right. And when did you decide the time was right? Vorn demanded. When we were strong enough that no one could threaten us again. When our children returned from the void. When Earth was no longer alone. A Trilaxian delegate stood up, her 3 eyes wide with confusion. But how? How did primitive humans build such technology 2,000 years ago? Our records show that your species was still using simple tools at that time. You had no advanced science, no space travel. Do-hyun nodded to the scientist beside him. Dr. Hana has spent her life studying our true history. She can explain better than I can. Hana stepped forward. She was young, with gentle eyes and steady hands. But when she spoke, her voice carried the weight of ancient knowledge. Your records are incomplete, she began. 2,000 years ago, human civilization reached a peak that we have only recently matched again. We had technology that your ancestors could not have imagined. We traveled between stars. We built cities in space. We were a great power in this galaxy. Impossible. Someone shouted from the crowd. We would have found evidence. Ruins. Artifacts. Something. You did find evidence, Hana replied calmly. But you did not recognize it. You dismissed our ancient texts as mythology. You called our legends primitive superstition. The truth was always there. You simply refused to believe it. She activated her device. A massive hologram appeared above the assembly, a map of the galaxy as it existed 2,000 years ago. The council delegates gasped. The map showed dozens of human colonies, spread across star systems that were now occupied by council species. This was our territory, Hana explained. The humans of that age were explorers. We settled new worlds. We built communities among the stars. But we were not warriors. We did not wish to conquer. We only wanted to grow. Then what happened? Yuna asked softly. Hana's expression grew sad. War happened. Not our war. A conflict between 2 ancient empires that no longer exist. They saw humanity as a resource to be used. They came to Earth with demands. Join their armies. Fight their enemies. Become soldiers for their endless battles. And humanity refused, Taewon continued. Our ancestors said no. They would not become weapons for alien masters. So the empires attacked. They destroyed our colonies. They burned our cities. They pushed us back to Earth and tried to erase us from history. But they failed, Do-hyun added. Earth survived. And in the darkest hour of our civilization, our greatest minds created a plan. They would send our best ships, our brightest people, into the void between galaxies, beyond the reach of any enemy. The Armada would travel for 2,000 years, growing stronger with each generation. And when they returned, humanity would never be vulnerable again. Those who stayed behind had the harder task, Hana said. They had to hide. They had to pretend that the Golden Age never happened. They destroyed their own technology, burned their own libraries, and let the galaxy believe that humans were nothing but primitive creatures struggling to survive. Generation after generation, they kept the secret. They waited. For us, Taewon finished. They waited for us to come home. The hall was completely silent. Delegates who had laughed at humanity for centuries now sat in shock. Everything they thought they knew was wrong. The weak little species they had mocked was older and stronger than any of them. Vorn's scales had turned pale. The ancient empires, he said slowly. What happened to them? Hana looked at him without blinking. They destroyed each other. As all empires do, eventually. By the time their war ended, there was nothing left of them but dust and memory. Humanity survived because we chose not to fight. We hid, we waited, and we outlasted them all. And now? Vorn asked. Now that you have returned, with your armada, now that you are strong again, what will you do? Taewon stepped forward. Despite his age, he moved with the grace of a warrior. His eyes swept across the assembly, seeing every face, every fear, every question. We will do what we have always done, he said. We will live. We will grow. We will explore the stars and build new homes among them. But we will not conquer. We will not enslave. We will not become the empires that tried to destroy us. How can we trust you? Someone called out. You cannot, Taewon admitted. Trust must be earned. We understand this. So we offer you a choice. The Galactic Council can continue as it has always been. We will not interfere with your politics or your wars. We ask only to be left alone. Or, Yuna asked, or you can join with us. Not as subjects. Not as servants. As partners. Humanity has learned much in our long journey. We have seen wonders that this galaxy has never known. We would share that knowledge freely, with anyone who asks. We would build a new age together, an age of peace and discovery. And if we choose neither? Vorn asked carefully. If we choose to oppose you? Taewon's expression did not change. Then you will be making a mistake. Not because we will punish you. We will not. But because you will be choosing fear over hope. You will be repeating the same errors that destroyed the ancient empires. And you will lose the greatest opportunity your species has ever been given. He paused, letting the weight of his words fill the chamber. We have returned with open hands, Council. We offer friendship, not war. But make no mistake, if anyone threatens Earth again, if anyone tries to harm our home, they will face the full power of an armada that has spent 2,000 years preparing for exactly that moment. Do-hyun stepped forward beside his admiral. Humanity's history is written in patience, he said. We waited 2,000 years for this day. We can wait longer. If we must. The question is, can you? The council had no answer. For the first time in 3,000 years, they were the ones who had to make a choice. And humanity was ready for whatever they decided. 3 months had passed since the Armada emerged from the void. 3 months of tension and negotiation and fear. The Galactic Council had split into factions. Some wanted peace with humanity. Others wanted war. Most simply wanted to understand what had happened to the universe they thought they knew. Ambassador Yuna had not slept well since the Great Meeting. She spent her nights reading the new information that humanity had shared histories of ancient civilizations, maps of distant galaxies, scientific discoveries that made her head spin. Everything she had learned in her 300 years of life now seemed incomplete. Humanity had been watching the stars while her ancestors were still learning to walk. High Commander Vorn had taken his fleet back to Drakari space. He claimed he needed time to think. But everyone knew the truth. He was afraid. The greatest military leader in the council had looked at the human armada and understood that his entire life's work meant nothing. If war came, the Drakari would be destroyed in days. But war did not come. Instead, something unexpected happened. The first human colony ship arrived at Valorian space 3 weeks after the council meeting. It was not a warship. It carried no weapons. It was filled with farmers and teachers and artists, ordinary humans, who had spent 2,000 years dreaming of the mother galaxy. They asked permission to settle on an empty moon near the Valorian homeworld. They offered to share their agricultural technology in exchange. The Valorians agreed. Then another colony ship arrived at Trilaxian territory, and another at the borders of the Keth Dominion. And another, spreading across the galaxy like seeds carried by wind. The humans did not invade. They did not threaten. They simply asked to be neighbors. Commander Do-hyun watched from Earth as his people returned to the stars. He stood in the Sol Command Center with Dr. Hanna beside him, tracking each colony ship on a massive holographic map. "It is beautiful," Hanna said softly. "After all these years of hiding, we can finally be ourselves again." "The Council is still worried," Do-hyun replied. "Vorn has been gathering allies. He believes we are trying to surround them. Let him believe what he wants. Our people know the truth. We are not soldiers. We are gardeners. We plant seeds and watch them grow. That is what we have always been." Fleet Admiral Taewon had moved his flagship to orbit around Earth. From there, he could see the blue marble that his ancestors had left behind 2,000 years ago. He spent hours staring at it through the observation windows, memorizing every cloud and continent. He had been born in the void, raised on stories of the homeworld. Seeing it with his own eyes still felt like a dream. His communications officer, a young man named Junwoo, approached with a message. "Admiral, we have received a transmission from the Galactic Council. Ambassador Yuna wishes to speak with you." "Put her through." Yuna's face appeared on the screen. She looked tired, but her eyes held a warmth that Taewon had come to appreciate. Among all the council leaders, she was the only one who truly wanted peace. "Admiral Taewon," she said, "I have news. The council has reached a decision. I am listening. The majority have voted to accept humanity's offer of partnership. We will begin formal diplomatic relations next month. Trade agreements, cultural exchanges, scientific cooperation. All of it." Taewon felt a weight lift from his ancient shoulders. "That is good news, Ambassador. Very good news. There is more. Several council members have requested human assistance with problems in their territories. Diseases that we cannot cure. Environmental disasters that we cannot repair. They have seen what your people can do, and they want help. We will give it freely," Taewon said. "That was always our intention." Yuna paused, her expression becoming serious. "And what of High Commander Vorn? He still opposes this decision. He has gathered a fleet of 1,200 ships. He calls himself the Defender of the Galaxy against human expansion." Taewon sighed. He had hoped Vorn would see reason, but fear was a powerful thing. What does Vorn want? He demands that humanity remove all colony ships from Council space. He says if you refuse, he will attack. 1,200 ships, Taewon said quietly, against 10,000. I have tried to reason with him. He will not listen. Taewon turned to look at Earth through the window. The planet was so peaceful from this distance. No one looking at it would guess that it had once been the target of ancient empires, that it had suffered and burned and nearly died, that its people had spent 2,000 years preparing to never let that happen again. "Ambassador," he said slowly, "I do not want war. I have seen enough death to last 1,000 lifetimes. But I will not let anyone threaten my people again. If Vorn attacks, we will respond." "I understand," Yuna said. "But please, give me time. Let me try one more thing." "What do you have in mind?" Yuna's eyes hardened with determination. "I will show Vorn what he is truly facing. Not your warships. Not your weapons. Something much more powerful." 1 week later, High Commander Vorn received an invitation. Ambassador Yuna asked him to visit a human colony ship near Valorian space. She promised no tricks, no traps, just a simple tour. Vorn was suspicious, but his curiosity was stronger. He took a small shuttle and flew to the colony ship alone. What he found there changed everything. The ship was filled with families, children running through corridors, laughing and playing, parents cooking meals and telling stories, old people sitting in gardens, watching the stars through giant windows. There were schools and hospitals and libraries. There were theaters where humans performed ancient plays. There were temples where they prayed to gods that Vorn had never heard of. A young girl approached him. She could not have been more than 6 years old, with bright eyes and messy hair. She looked up at the massive Drakari warrior without fear. "Are you the one who wants to fight us?" she asked. Vorn did not know how to answer. He had commanded armies. He had destroyed fleets. He had never spoken to a child. I I do not know, he admitted. The girl smiled. My grandmother says fighting is for people who have forgotten how to talk. Have you forgotten how to talk? No, I have not forgotten. Then maybe you should talk more and fight less. That is what my grandmother says. The girl ran off to join her friends, leaving Vorn standing alone in the corridor. He watched the humans around him living their simple lives, caring for each other, building something beautiful in the emptiness of space. They were not warriors. They were not conquerors. They were just people, and there were billions of them, spread across thousands of ships and countless colonies, each one carrying the same dream that had driven their ancestors into the void 2,000 years ago. Not the dream of empire, the dream of home. Vorn returned to his fleet and gave an order that shocked everyone who knew him. Stand down. Return to Drakari space. The war is over before it begins. When asked why, he had only one answer. Because they are not our enemies. They never were. We were simply too afraid to see the truth. The galaxy did not change overnight. There were still suspicions and arguments and old wounds that needed healing. But slowly, year by year, the walls came down. Human colonies traded with alien worlds. Human scientists worked alongside council researchers. Human artists shared their stories with audiences of 1,000 species. And on Earth, in a small garden in Seoul, Commander Do-hyun sat with Fleet Admiral Tae-wan under a cherry tree. The blossoms fell around them like pink snow. Do you think it will last? Do-hyun asked. This peace we have built? Tae-wan closed his eyes and breathed in the sweet air of the home world. Nothing lasts forever, old friend. But that is not the point. The point is to build something good while we can, to plant seeds and hope they grow. Our ancestors understood this. They sent us into the void not because they believed we would return. They sent us because they believed in tomorrow. Do-hyun smiled. And now tomorrow is here. Yes, Tae-wan agreed. And it is more beautiful than any of them could have imagined. Above them, the stars shone bright. Somewhere out there, human children were taking their first steps on new worlds. Somewhere out there, old enemies were becoming new friends. And somewhere, in the quiet of the void, a beacon that had pulsed for 2,000 years finally went silent. Its job was done. Humanity was home.